Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we're here for another poetry discussion. This poetry discussion comes to us from Charles Bukowski in The Pleasures of the Damned, the poem that starts on page 211 and lasts 4 pages, but it's small. They're small lines. So one thing I will apologize for in advance, this poem trips me up, even when I read it silently. So I'm going to stutter, I'm going to stumble. Pardon me. The poem is titled The Bakers of 1935. And before we start, look, I've got new videos on the channel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I also have new videos on my personal channel Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, a link to which can be found in the description below. I'm going to adjust this because it's going to fall off here. Mondays here are for poetry. Mondays on my personal channel, not so much, for different stuff over there. But here we go. The Bakers of 1935. My mother, father, and I walked to the market once a week for our government relief food. Cans of beans, cans of weenies, cans of hash, some potatoes, some eggs. We carried the supplies in large shopping bags. And as we left the market, we always stopped outside where there was a large window where we could see the bakers kneading the flour into the dough. There were 5 bakers, large young men, and they stood at 5 large wooden tables, working very hard, not looking up. They flipped the dough in the air, and all the sizes and designs were different. We were always hungry, and the sight of the men working the dough, flipping it in the air, was a wondrous sight indeed. But then it would come time to leave, and we would walk away carrying our heavy shopping bags. Those men have jobs, my father would say. He said it each time. Every time we watched the bakers, he would say that. I think I found a new way to make the hash, my mother would say each time. Or sometimes it was the weenies. We ate the eggs all different ways. Fried, poached, boiled. One of our favorites was poached eggs on hash, but that favorite finally became almost impossible to eat. And the potatoes, we fried them, baked them, boiled them, but the potatoes had a way of not becoming as tiresome as the hash, the eggs, the beans. One day, arriving home, we placed all our foodstuffs on the kitchen counter and stared at them. Then we turned away. I'm going to hold up the bank, my father suddenly said. Oh no, Henry, please, said my mother. Please don't. We're going to eat some steak. We're going to eat steaks until they come out of our ears. But Henry, you don't have a gun. I'll hold something under my coat. I'll pretend it's a gun. I've got a water pistol, I said. You can use that. My father looked up at me. You, he said, shut up. I walked outside. I sat on the back steps. I could hear them in there talking, but I couldn't quite make it out. Then I could hear them again. It was louder. I'll find a new way to cook everything, my mother said. I'm going to rob a goddamn bank, my dad said. Henry, please, please don't, I heard my mother. I got up from the steps, walked away into the afternoon. So where I want to start the discussion with this poem is with a comparison, not an equivocation. Okay? It's important to me to get that out there, that it is a comparison, not an equivocation. I am not saying these things are the same. I am looking for an example of what's going on here. But one of the things that happens a lot with autistic children is they can't use their words. And they can't use their words, and they blow up. They get violent. I shouldn't say a lot. I don't want it to sound like I'm promoting some stigma about children with autism. But one of the things that happens with children that have autism and are not verbal is when they are put in situations where they have something they need to communicate, and they are not able to use the words, and they do not have some other way to communicate. they become violent. What it does, you are unable to contribute to the situation and make things better, so you blow up, right? That's what's happening there. That is a very, I reach to that because I think it is an easy to understand example of the same thing that is happening in this poem. Young Henry Chinaski is confronted with the situation that his father, Henry, is contemplating something awful. And when he tries to contribute, he is shown, much like that child that can't communicate, you can't do it. You're not communicating efficiently. You're not saying what I need you to say. You're not giving me what I need in this form of communication, in this attempt to communicate. Part of it is because his father is obviously being full of shit, and he's not looking for actual contribution. He's looking to be talked down from the ledge by his wife. That's what's happening there. Dad's a punk. But I think this emotion by young Henry, this recognition of, it seems I am being told I am lesser. And that's what's happening in this poem. Young Henry Chinaski is being told he is lesser. He is worth less than the situation requires. Because he's still under the impression that his father actually intends to rob a bank. He's not just being a punk, which Dad's just being a punk. I think, honestly, that these moments are some of the most powerful moments in life. These moments where it is communicated to the individual, even if this is a miscommunication, a misinterpretation by the individual. These moments where it is communicated clearly to the individual. You are worthless in this situation. You do not have what is needed here. You do not have it. You do not possess it. There is nothing going on from you. And we have, in this poem, that idea being communicated very thoroughly to young Henry. We have that idea being taken by young Henry. And we have that idea being exercised. We have that anxiety, that angst. We have that explosion happening. But it does not happen into the direction of his father. It happens outwardly into the world. I got up from the steps, walked away into the afternoon. That's powerful. That's powerful. That is the individual deciding that something must be done and taking an individual journey. What happens on that journey? We've all been there. We've all taken that walk at some point in our life. On that journey, some type of revelation occurs. Some type of swearing occurs. I don't mean cursing. I mean swearing to the self. I am going to be better than I am. I am going to provide more than I do. I am going to be worth more than I am. These are the things that happen on that walk. They can be the most formative moments in our lives. Surely, this was a formative moment in young Henry's life, young Charles Bukowski's life, if this poem is indeed autobiographical. It is possible that it is. It is probably likely that it is, judging from some of the other content that we get from Bukowski. It is likely that this was some form of true event, on some scale in his life, and it stuck with him long enough to write this poem. Bukowski was twice removed from poetry, 3 times removed from writing. He was a young writer of prose, quit that, started writing poetry, quit that for 12 years, came back to poetry, and I think he quit writing again before he was published upon his return to writing. Not really important details, but interesting details nonetheless. But this incident was surely formative to Bukowski. And I think, in some way, for most poets, these moments where they don't have the words to provide meaning or context to a situation become the impetus for poems in general. And that's striking, isn't it? They are from small, wordless moments that most poems are born. There is, perhaps, poetry in that. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. Discussion of The Bakers of 1935 as it appeared in The Pleasures of the Damned from Charles Bukowski. I hope to have you back next time. Remember, I have new videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on this channel. Mondays are for poetry.